Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode in the high-tech track from scratch series. Today we're just going to be continuing producing on the track that we were already working on. So getting into the project, what I did as kind of like a preparation for today is I listened to a lot of the high-tech that you guys recommended on the video that I did on kick and bass complexities. And overall, what I think is that the weaker part of our track is going to be this part. Like this part here is going to be okay-ish. I'm going to change up some of the drums a little bit, maybe change the kick and bass a little bit. And then we really need to look into the synths and the main theme and the main idea for this part here. I think this will be fine with a little bit more extra arranging. It's going to be okay. And then obviously we have to continue working on this part of the track here. The very first thing that I want to do is I want to change the kick and bass up a little bit. So I'm just going to solo the kick and bass and just change some parameters, listen to it a little bit, EQ it a little bit, that kind of stuff. To be honest, I think the kick sample isn't the best, so I'm going to try to remake a kick drum here. I think the last time we started out with a sample, so maybe we'll try to make one and see if that works better. I'm just going to start from the punchy kick preset and I'm just going to build my way to a nice sounding kick here. Of course, we can edit this a little bit more with some EQing. One of the things that we need to take care of is the length of the kick here. We want this to be shorter. I think something like this will be fine. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace this kick drum here. There's a little neat trick that you can do to actually do that. Just going to freeze it and flatten it. And then we get a kick drum, something like this. And then right here in the sample manager, what we can do is we can just replace that with the other kick that we have. Let's see if we can find it. There we are. And because both of these samples are frozen, they are going to show up in the same folder, or both of them are consolidated, I think. And with a little bit more EQing, maybe a little bit more processing as well. Sounds nice and aggressive. Now, before we continue, I quickly want to say that if you want to support the channel, make sure that you like the video and that you're subscribed. That really helps a lot. If you want to support me financially, though, you can do so by checking out my products on Gumroad or checking out my Patreon page, where you get early access to videos as well as priority in any of the feedback live streams I do every Sunday. Links to both of those are going to be in the description. With that said, let's get back into the video. I like where this is going. What I want to do next is replace some of the drum samples because I think they're a little bit too washed out. So I replaced some of the drums as well. I replaced the closed head as well as the snare, and we get something that sounds like this. And honestly, the big problem in my opinion is the fact that it's all a little bit loud here. So just from a temporary mixing standpoint, I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. not the biggest fan of the open hat here either. Let's see if I can get a little bit of a darker tone for that. I'll just replace it here. So now that I also have replaced the open hat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on rewriting this section here. I might redo some of the sequencing in here as well, because I'm not the happiest with it now listening back to it. I said that it was going to work fine, but I think that there still needs to be a little bit of work done here to actually make the sequences make sense. So I'm just going to start off with some sound design. I want to try a couple of different things. One of the things that I want to try is this technique that I saw somewhere online, I don't remember where. I've never really used operator, but I do think that it's a very potent synth. In this case, what he was doing is he was assigning a sine wave modulation to the pitch here of another sine wave. So just with turning on the LFO, I think. Okay, so what I've created is I've created this patch here. What I've done is I've set the LFO to high here, and then I've just kind of set the rate by ear. I've selected the square wave here, and this is just going into the first oscillator here, which I've also set to a square wave, not the full square wave harmonic series, but just part of it. And that's all just going through a high pass filter with a little bit of resonance. Something like that. We should probably tune this. So what I ended up doing here is tuning this rate to a very particular value, which is that of the key of F sharp 0. And then you get something like this. I've also set this to a bandpass so that we get more of a sweeping effect. And playing different octaves will give you different timbres. So let's just try putting that in somewhere and see if we can create some cool small little effect with that. Just a little bit of an effect there. I'm just going to sound design some more. What I essentially want to do is have a few basic, like high-tech sounding sounds. One other idea is to do a little bit of an FM setup. Let's just try something like this, where we get a very strong FM from the sub oscillator, and then we just put on a bandpass like this. What we essentially want to do, I think, is we want to include some of these sounds here, and some of these sounds that we've already made. And then we want to make a few more foreground sounds that we can kind of sequence with. We also have some of the one-shots in here, which we can use for that. And then we want one or two background sounds, which is all going to layer on top of. And that will be like a very glitchy, very digital kind of sound. Let's actually try making that first, because I think that will be a very difficult part of this. So if I think something digital, I think comb filter. And then using the little trick that you can do with the distortion here, if you go into downsampling to get that kind of digital sound from that. What we'll do is a little bit of randomization here, just a little bit, and then do the same on the comb filter. Maybe a phaser instead of a flanger or comb filter. So after a little bit of sound designing, I created this here. Nice little digital kind of sound. It's basically just 3 saw waves going through this filter here. This is randomly modulated, as you can see by the note on random here. This second one going to the filter cutoff. Then for the digital sound, we use some downsampling distortion. This is also being randomized, this drive here. We just then use some different kind of effects to make the sound a little bit less boring. Here's a cool little delay track that I recently learned. I mean, I knew that you could do this before, but this really works well on those kind of psychedelic sounds. As you can see, we're also using the chorus in that same way, kind of that high feedback, high depth kind of way. But we're controlling both of them with the decay of this envelope over here. And we can give this patch a little bit more release so that it kind of lingers out a little bit. Sometimes you can hear it's just lingering around the note a little bit longer. Something like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write like a quick sequence for it. It's just going to be triggered 16 notes. Make them a little bit shorter. So right now what I think is happening is that, for example, this main sequence over here is just a little bit too like predictable. It's always playing in the same exact place and at the same exact way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rewrite this bit here to get some gritty sounds out of it. I do believe, yes, we have a macro for the sound, so that's really nice. I can just start writing immediately. What we could do is see where this macro is attached to. I think just to the filter cutoff, yes. And we can change that to a note on random. I think this one is a little bit too low. It's also going to be need to placed on a different place. Somewhere where it really has some impact, I think these sounds will work well. Here's the same thing. This is too predictable, just playing every 4 bars. So I'm just going to leave it in here as like a one shot, as like an atmosphere. And I'll do the same right here. We're just going to fill it with other sounds and different kind of digital sound design, stuff like that. I'm going to expand this FM loop a little bit more, placing it every once in a while because it's all randomized. I'm not a fan of these gritty tones. I also want to remove these here. I think I should also finally delete the glitch loop because, to be honest, I don't think we'll reuse it somewhere else. What we could do is take some of these bigger parts of it, bigger chunks of it, and put that throughout kind of the sequence that we're creating, just like this. Just little bits, you know, here and there. Actually, the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to leave this untouched like that. I do think there may be multiple different sound design takes in here. Like this is probably a good thing to keep somewhere, but that's also something that wasn't in the other file. In this one over here, I think. So now after a little bit of sequencing, I do think that we're getting somewhere a little bit better. I just kind of dropped them in randomly. We still need to do the second part here mainly. I want to put in a few more of these sounds, just kind of like casually, randomly put in there. I'm trying to follow a little bit of a structure, but as you can see, I'm not really tied to anything. So as you can see right here, there's a difference in that it doesn't play this kind of standard rhythm every time. I would like to avoid what I was doing last time with my sequencing, is that it's always the same every single time. I want to just change it up a little bit and not be so pedantic about all of the like basic rules of Psytrance that I'm used to, because those are the rules that mainly apply to my kind of progressive style of making Psytrance as opposed to this high-tech style here. Now I'm going to sound design a little bit more because I want to have a few more of these kind of glitchy, kind of messed up digital sounds. What I actually want to try out is to record some of these sequences here all on top of each other. We'll temporarily place these in here. You can hear way too much stuff going on, but we're going to use that to our advantage here by just kind of recording this here. So now that we have that recording, let's drag it into a simpler. And what we can do is essentially just loop this very shortly. Let's make the length a little bit shorter here, like this. Little bit of fade. And now you'll get something like this. Okay, so I was experimenting a little bit with this technique to see if I can make it sound proper. I think what is happening is that these two things are out of sync for some reason. So I don't know why that is happening. Maybe if we just do it like this. That already sounds a little bit more like a tone, actually. What we can try to do is maybe glitch it up a little bit to see if that actually helps. So our sound design session did lead to this. Essentially, I just hold a note and I get some really complex kind of one shot from this. And it should all be in time because it's all based around this LFO. Essentially what we have is I've just got that recording of that synth still playing here. I've set the length to 0. That seems to work really, really well. I need to turn off snap. That might be the reason here. Ah. So something like 0.4. Or let's try 0.2 here. Yeah, then we get into that nice kind of digital type of sound. And this starts to get the pitch. We can see which pitch it is here. So right now I'm playing an F sharp and I'm getting a C. So I'm going to go sharp, D sharp, E, F, F sharp. Another cool trick that we can maybe adapt in here is if we do use an arpeggiator, let's hope that this doesn't actually break anything with 100% gate length. So hopefully the notes kind of attach to each other, or should probably be 99. Yes. Now what we can do is we can trigger different chords. So I'm going to go here random other, and I'm just going to lay down a couple of chords for this synth sound. Maybe we just try 3 octaves. If we don't use any delay, we can get some crazy sounds out of it as well. I think this should be useful as a one-shot, actually. A little bit of OTT maybe to just equalize it a little bit, get everything nice and flat in terms of dynamics. I'm just going to like parallel this. So just as a test, what I did is I tried to see if I could make this sound work in here, and it actually does fit really well in this part here. can hear we just need some extra sounds here. I don't want to keep using the same sounds over and over again, so I'm going to try to make a bunch more. Maybe just another very strong FM synth will be something that's nice. There's a cool way that we can like imply some FM on top of a sound. The way that you do this here is you go in here and you can actually take the wavetable as an LFO shape. And this is just a wave cycle for my second Stones pack. And what we can do now is actually save this, and we can use that in the remap function here. So this shares the same saved presets. As you can see, this is the same shape as here. So you can just increase this and get some really nasty sounds out of that. As opposed to just this, which is also a cool sound, but this is a little bit more versatile because you can modulate through it. What I want to do is I just want to place a couple of sounds in here. Just a couple of clips like this, and I'll duplicate that over then a couple of times. Because what we can actually do is we can record in the modulation first, and then we can spread them around. So what I've done is I've configured Ableton to show me macro 1 and 2, and then I can link that to my MIDI controller. So as you can see, both of them have their own unique MIDI mapping. So I'm just going to close out here, and now I can use my controller to control these two macros. And this is really cool because I can record in the modulation or the automation before I actually go out and distribute this over the actual track. And that way I just have to record for a very small amount of time, and that saves a little bit of time on the actual workflow. So I'm just going to record in over this part here. So now what we can do is just simplify both of the envelopes, and we can cut these parts out again and then just use them wherever we want. Let's try to be a little bit creative with the placement of these. We'll leave one there. We'll leave one over here. I'm just going to fill up some of the spaces here. I don't want to place it after every one of those. So I'm going to move one over here. I'll have one before, and then maybe, let's go right here actually. So I'm going to remove the sequence from this part. So this has a little bit more impact and it doesn't continue there. There might be other places where I'm going to temporarily stop it. I do also think that having it in like this breakdown section here is going to help transition into this drop. So what I'm just doing is extending out some of these sounds and using them a little bit more every once in a while, just in different spaces and on top of different other combinations to just fill it up a little bit more and to just get the track a little bit more exciting, a little bit more glitchy overall. Let's just change some of these automations so that they're not always the same. Little bit of erosion is going to help with the high end on this stuff. Just always make sure that it has like a nice crispy high end. And then we'll do some stereo processing as well. right here, what I want to do to tie it a little bit more in with the actual beat itself, I'm actually going to do this on all of the sequences, something that I often don't really do. Something we can do here is just turn on this effect, this beat repeat here. It's just in line with the kicks a little bit more, so it repeats this segment right here as well, exactly in the same way. There's probably going to be more parts where this is useful, maybe even here already as well. That way, what we're essentially doing is looking at the kicks. What is it going to repeat? How is it going to repeat? And how can we make sure that these rhythms kind of work together? So just trying to clean things up a little bit and to get a little bit more consistency in the track, I am also trying to do this beat repeat thing over here. Those things, you barely notice it if you listen to it in the track, but it's going to really help the track kind of feel unified, I think. Maybe we should have a few of these. Maybe we should also have some 16 notes doing that. For 16 notes, we just do something like this. So by just creatively activating these beat repeats here, we now get something that sounds like this. What we can also do to still keep a little bit more tension, more energy in here, is to use something like Debrew Glitch. This is one of my all-time favorite plugins. I just use it so much. What you just do is just select the parts where you want the glitch to appear. And you just turn the mix on there. And then you just find the right pattern by basically randomly setting the seed until you come across something that actually works. What we can do is I can place this in the one-shots group here. Essentially, it doesn't really matter from like a sound design perspective what exactly a sound is. I like to group them a little bit and color them the same. But what we can do this way is we can apply the glitch to the group here and basically do everything, take everything at one single time. So I don't really like the sound of that. It's a little bit too choppy in my opinion, so I go try a different number. Little bit of a weird sound there at the end, so I'm just going to like fade down like this. What we can do to really just stop it there is temporarily turn the whole group off by using a utility. I should do this more. I should just use the groups more for what they're actually meant for, as in these kind of overarching effects. I don't really do that. Not on the actual main group in normal cases. One way we can bring a little bit of order into this chaos is by adding a little bit of a fill or maybe a few like tight snares or something like that. Just overall, I find that having the drums in there helps with the overall groove. So I'm just going to go something like that, like a very short, very clicky snare. I'm going to complement that with some of these hats. What I often see is that the hats are also kind of used as just like an extra bit of brightness right on top. So I just want to emulate that right here. Nice little introduction there for the hats. And what I probably want to do is actually something like this here as like an extra percussion. And then we just do like a standard 2-bar rhythm like this. And we'll duplicate that over a couple of times until we get right here. So that starts to sound a little bit more like it. I think some of these sounds should probably come over here as well. I don't know if I want to just use all of the sounds right here in the exact same way, or if I want to stop some from coming over. Like, for example, maybe I don't want to do like this, because then it's too similar. Or maybe what it actually needs in terms of the track is to have these sit right here. So this is a little bit more empty and we have a little bit more space for example, some more atmospheres to come through. And then as the energy level of the track increases, so does the number of elements in the track. I'm just kind of placing the hats in random positions where I do think that they will add a little bit to the groove. I, again, don't want to follow any kind of structure here. Let me know if I'm doing this right. If I'm doing this and sequencing this wrong. As I said many times before during the series, this is my first time really trying out making high tech. So if there's something that I'm doing wrong, please let me know. But I think in the start, we want as few of these sounds as possible. So it's just slowly going to increase. And then here, obviously, it goes into full hats. Same is going to be true for the snare here. We want some snare hits, I think, maybe one on the kick here. Right here on the offbeat, probably after some of these hats, what would be nice. Did a little bit of a cool idea here with the snares, because we don't really hear them anywhere else playing like very closely together 16 notes. This is a cool way to just keep a little bit of the structure by kind of announcing the fact that there's this fill here, which isn't really a fill because the kick and bass just continues to play, but it's all like broken up and glitched up a little bit here. So this just announces that, and that happens exactly after 7 bars. So if you were to imagine what that would look like from a structure standpoint, this would be a drop. We would have our like phantom fill here, which is technically still part of the drop. If we duplicate that over, we come exactly where the next fill is going to be. And this is an actual fill because the kick and the bass, as you can see, is just completely missing there. just a cool little trick to kind of accentuate this part here, and that prepares you for when it happens again here with the slightly slower rhythm as well. So now we get, with the hats and the snares, we get something like this. What I do think the track needs a little bit is some melodic theming overall. I think we have the digital glitchy part of the track down, and we just need some extra arps on top of it that help with the musicality of it. So we do already have one idea here, which is this one. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to write some more like melodic ideas. I think I'll go a little bit faster because this part is a little bit more aggressive. What you can do is create a eighth note modulation here and kind of double the speed by just going up an octave. Just kind of like a cool octave arp going on here. So I did make this melody here. I'm just trying to adapt it to the beat again, and this is what it sounds like. That's just there to help it fit with the stuff that the kick is doing here. And to be honest, this came out really, really well. The way that it kind of blends these two sections together. Let's get ourselves a deep loop glitch here. One of the ways that you can use this is you set it to 1 bar of length, and whenever you want to do a tape stop effect like this, you just use it like that. Just trying to get stuff like this feel right is taking up a lot of my creative energy right now. And to be honest, it's not really going the way that I want it to go. Like, it feels very forced in this section of the track here. I do really like, and I want to have one of these like strangely placed fills, but right now it just feels completely out of the structure. But to be honest, I'm happy with all of the new sequences that we got in here. I'm happy with all of the work that we did today. I wanted to maybe spend a little bit more time on this part as well here. I know that we've been spending a lot of time on getting these first sounds right, and that has taken 4 episodes. I'm happy with them now, and I think this is something that I can bounce off of creatively. It's a lot better than what we had before. I mean, it's still technically a lot of the stuff that we had before here. It just is taking a little bit more of a backseat in this case. Right before filming, actually, what I did is I took some of these sounds here, I think, and just turned them down a couple of dB so that They're not as aggressive, they're not as in your face as they were before. And I think that really helps now that we are getting some of the other ideas out there and that the sound design is starting to work a little bit better than before. Now it is actually getting pretty late, so I'm not going to annoy my neighbors with any more of this, and I'm going to finish recording for today, which means that this is going to be the end of the episode here. I hope that you enjoyed some of my production. You can support by watching some more videos on the channel, but that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.